The New Hampshire House has a Thursday deadline to send the state's two-year budget to the Senate. Republicans and Democrats are $265 million apart. The two competing plans were on display today at the State House in Concord. First, the House Finance Committee presented their proposed $11 billion plan at a forum for fellow lawmakers in the House chambers. Finance Committee Chair Marjorie Smith and her committee leaders led a 90-minute overview of the budget and faced tough criticism from fellow Democrats who thought the budget was too stingy. Keen Democrat Tim Robertson says despite new taxes on inheritances and capital gains, the richest Granite Staters still aren't paying enough.
We can't do it this year, but are we going to get from your great wisdom of your committee the recommendation that we put in some kind of a tax which takes advantage of our great number of wealthy people?
Well, all I can say to you, Representative, is that you obviously haven't been reading my email. It's just amazing the decisions that we made to try to recognize that it might be possible for people with a great deal of income to bear a little bit more of the cost. There are those in this body who will tell you that we are bringing about the end of the civilized world by virtue of what we're.
Northfield Democrat Deborah Wheeler is a retired state worker herself, and she objects to being asked to pay out of pocket for state health benefits that she says were part of the deal.
When we began, we were not promised high wages or anything along that line, but that when we retired, whether you were under 65 or over 65, that you would be able to have everything intact. That's the reason we worked so many years for the state at low wages, because our retirement
Is and never has been a guarantee for health insurance. This state is not obliged to provide health insurance for retirees. We are committed, absolutely committed, to continuing to subsidize health insurance to state employees, even though we are not required to do so. We are doing it because it is the right thing to do.
Wheeler says if the plan goes through, she won't be able to afford to run for re-election next year. Concord Democrat Jesse Osborne wants to increase state revenue with new broad-based taxes. She says the House Finance Committee's budget will simply pass costs on to local communities.
We have ignored the problem through many, many years. And this group is still ignoring the problem, which is the source of revenue. Now, we're talking about the judicial cuts, closing the courts. What you neglected to say was, yes, it will cost the counties more because they will have to pay for transportation to other venues. In fact, in Merrimack County, we're going to have to send some people over to Newport or Claremont from New London. So it will cost more for the sheriff, it will cost more for transportation. So that is a lie that we are not down ship.
Governor John Lynch proposed borrowing $83 million a year to pay for school building aid. Smith says doing so would prevent the state from issuing bonds for other capital projects, and her proposal cuts the program entirely. This drew a lukewarm response from Lynch spokesman Colin Manning, which irritated Smith.
Perhaps it was a bad day either for the governor or for the governor's public information person. Perhaps, it couldn't have been the Red Sox. Today's opening day, so they haven't lost a game. Maybe he was upset with who was going to end up in the Final Four. I don't know what it was. But the governor's spokesman made some strong statements that surprised me.
Smith says the Finance Committee made tough choices in tough times and urged her colleagues to send the budget recommendation to the Senate.
Every single choice is a hard choice. And if you think that anyone on this committee enjoyed what we were doing, you're wrong. But we did the best that we could, and that's all that I can say.
The House meets Wednesday and Thursday this week to approve, amend, or reject the New Hampshire budget. In Part 2, we examine the Republican alternative. For New Hampshire Watchdog, Grant Bosse reporting.